Welcome to Friday night's video in our second Masters series. I do believe this is 36th video in our second Masters series and the third video on impulse frequency response metering. Now, really quick, this is going to be a very short video because there is no specific metering system. We talked about some of the pieces of software that can help you to do that. And there's a couple different aspects. The first one is, trying to meter and inspect like impulse responses for frequency and impulse response content, and looking at like tracks, like you have either a drum hit or a vocal or something like that you're trying to analyze the frequency and impulse response content, which sometimes can be very difficult, and it's really sometimes really hard to target exactly what you're dealing with, but there are ways to look at it, and we will get into that more when we get into processor and effects analysis, and we look at convolution reverb, and we look at normal reverb and things like that, and its effect on audio and how to visualize it well and see what's happening. So hold tight for that. But as far as the meters themselves, in the next couple of videos, we're going to look at impulse responses and frequency responses, which basically should give you some insight to whether when you're looking at impulse responses for convolution reverb or when you're looking at normal reverbs that apply algorithms or hardware pieces of equipment to add reverberation that aren't convolution, what is happening, what they could be doing, and so that those concepts sink in really well so that when you're looking at things that you have a better idea of what you're looking at and in different situations so that you can deal with them from a more informed perspective. Now, as far as the meters themselves, this is a real simple concept. It's not complicated in any way, shape, or form, and we're not going to really get into it except for in the next couple videos when you analyze frequency and impulse responses. We'll pull out some meters to look at them, but there's really no specific meters. So just really quick in this short video that, I've got a small impulse response here with the frequency and impulse response content. If it's a stereo impulse response, that I can look at this on a phase meter. So I can analyze its effect on a phase meter, whether that I'm looking at impulse response, a frequency response, a combination of them for doing convolution reverb, or its effect on a piece of audio, what effect it might be having. I can look at that on a phase meter. I can see that its effects on a level meter, which we've talked about, the importance of them and aspects of them. I'll be able to see that with my scope. I can either analyze either one of them with my scope as the meter for that and with a spectrometer. So any one of those meters, as well as the DAW. The DAW itself, these are just the basic tools we have in our DAW, and what we really want to focus on. More elaborate tools are great, but you really want to focus on the meat and potatoes things your DAW does and the tools it has. And you can always buy more expensive meters, as you become a better engineer and or can afford it, and you want more detail or just want better equipment. Now, you can also analyze impulse responses on your timeline. You can get quite a bit of information about the impulse response over time, looking at it from the point of seconds view or bars or wherever, to get quite a bit of information about what's happening there for analysis, editing, enhancing, or whatever you might be doing. And so, those are the basic tools and basic meters that we have that we've already talked about. In the coming videos, we're going to talk about stereo field meters, phase meters, and correlation meters. Once those videos are done, that you will understand a little bit better, I hope, of how that you can be able to see these kind of things whenever you're dealing with mono or stereo applications of convolution reverb, regular reverb, acoustics, one mic versus two mics, and all kinds of things like that to help you analyze what's going on. But there is no set meter. Those meters, and three of them we've already talked about. And so there's no set meter really, the way that, in my humble opinion, that's set up to do that. But those meters can see it very well. And in the next couple of videos, we're going to look at impulse responses and frequency responses. That way that we can apply that knowledge to whatever we're looking at. We're looking at frequency and impulse responses for convolution reverb, or we're trying to understand what a microphone might be doing, what a piece of hardware, what a piece of software might be doing, what the room might be doing. You know, whatever you might be dealing with that's going to be dealing with frequency and impulse responses as far as things you're working on, so that those meters have more use for you when you're using them as frequency and impulse response meters to try to see things that are happening in that domain. So that's a mouthful, but we'll look at that because in the coming videos, like I said, we'll be looking at processors. Like, you know, there's a whole series of things of videos on my channel about microphones, and we'll be looking at convolution reverb, we'll be looking at normal reverb, and trying to get a better understanding of what we're looking at, so we understand the plugin better, so we can understand analysis of what it's doing and things like that. And this will really come into play to help you understand better what's happening there, because this is such a huge topic that affects so many things happening in your studio that are greatly going to affect the end product by enhancing it or destroying it. Doesn't mean muddying it up and all kinds of things. I mean, impulse and frequency responses can multiply multitudes of crap that are in a recording to make it a muddy mess, besides just adding too much reverberation, multiplying the noise, saturations, distortions, all kinds of things, because it starts multiplying it and then convolving those multiplications onto the piece of audio. So that's a whole nother subject that we'll get into. We'll also do a video series on analyzing noise, saturation, and distortion. So don't worry, and there's a couple meters we can use for that, but it's an analysis unto itself also to really help you become that next level audio engineer. So those are basically the meters that we have, and for the most part we understand those meters, and I've done some videos on those meters. So applying the things we're getting ready to talk about in the next couple videos is going to be up to you to use the information, to apply it, to analyze, using those meters to analyze frequency and impulse responses. And later on, when we get into analyzing like convolution reverbs and nova reverbs and things like that, that you apply that knowledge here to that, and using those meters to analyze that, which we'll go through. So that might be a mouthful, but that basically where we're at with that, and I just wanted to point that out and make that really clear. So in the next video, we are going to look at impulse responses, and then following that with a look at frequency responses with the meters we've talked about, so that we can have a better understanding of what we're looking at. So wherever we're seeing those effects in the studio, that we're better able to analyze that, and what tools we have to analyze that, and have a good idea of what we're looking at with the analysis tools we have. So peace, hope, love. I certainly hope you enjoyed this third video on talking about impulse and frequency response metering, and I will see you in the next video.